Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. Because They Are My Children, written by I Am the Hype TFS. What if magic was real? It had been a question on the minds of humanity ever since the concept was first formed. Some thought that it was, and that there were true magic users amongst the magicians and illusionists that drew in the masses that wanted to believe. Others held firm that no such thing existed, and that all the tricks such performers used had reasonable, if not simple, explanations. So imagine humanity's surprise when they took to the stars and discovered three jarring truths. Gods were real, magic was real, and humans couldn't use it. It was customary for the gods to conceal the gifts they had bestowed upon the races inhabiting the planets they controlled until those races became truly space-capable. It was not so much a law as an unspoken rule to protect these races from the other gods who might try to undermine them by giving their species abilities, intended to counter the others once they finally came into contact with each other. But as it turned out, it never really became a problem, seeing as the gifts were more often than not were given out of necessity, so that they could overcome the particular challenges their worlds had to offer, and allow them to develop steadily and in relative safety. Because of this, the unspoken rule would be accidentally broken by some gods wanting to brag to others about how wonderful their children were, and the might they possessed. The successes of their planet's inhabitants were their successes, after all, and who wouldn't want to take pride in a job well done? Almost all of the races whose abilities became known before the intended time were predators. The gods who raised them, every bit the warriors that they were raised to emulate. The creators of the prey species rarely shared the information early, though less out of concern for revealing the secrets and more because they were far too involved in the affairs of their children, doing their utmost to gently guide them through the ages. And then there was Gaia, the goddess of a Deathworld, a place where even the most hardy members of other races would struggle to survive. The thought of a race living and growing on such a world to the point that they could achieve liberation from the clutches of the atmosphere was unthinkable without a powerful gift. A predator species was the only possible choice if Gaia wanted her race to have the slimmest hope of survival, and, with that thought in mind, the gods of the other predators eagerly awaited the day Gaia accidentally let slip her children's power, for it would have to be quite the exceptional gift indeed to allow her children to thrive. Yet they heard nothing. For centuries they waited, and slowly an increasingly noticeable gap began to form between their races and Gaia's. Their development couldn't compare to any individual metric, and by the time most of the others had reached out and grasped the stars, humanity was only just setting their eyes on their moon, though revealing the gifts of their children could be overlooked. An ironclad law of the gods was that no one but the planet's guardian could view the species of their race for themselves. They were limited to the knowledge of the general development milestones that each race would need to reach on their journey to space, and it was through this shared knowledge that the other gods saw humanity's shortcomings. Then a rumor began to spread amongst the pantheon. It whispered that Gaia had not seen fit to grant her children any gifts at all, leaving them incapable of taming their planet and stunting their growth significantly. As the rumors spread and grew, the gods of the prey species cried out with accusations of neglect, while the gods of the predators scowled in contempt at the idea of a proud predator species being crippled by an unworthy parent. And yet when she finally addressed the rumor, there was no anger or guilt to be heard in her voice. If you are all so insistent on knowing, then yes, the rumor is true. My children have no mystical gifts to speak of. They cannot bend the elements to their whim with a wave of their hand. They cannot mold the earth beneath their feet to make their path smooth. They are not imbued with the durability of iron to defend themselves from their foes. Now, if that is all, I shall take my leave. Her words left the pantheon speechless, to the point that none could manage to utter a word of protest before she had left. Not only had they not expected her to actually confirm the rumor, but to do so without even a hint of shame was inconceivable. But despite their concerns and outraged other choices, they could do nothing. They were not permitted to interfere on any level with another god's children until they joined them in space, and thus were powerless to stop Gaia's cruelty. In the centuries that passed, the concern of humanity twisted into a grudge against their goddess. If by some miracle they managed to join the other races, the gods would have them annihilated as retribution for the disrespect they believed she displayed for the very process of creating and nurturing a life which was the responsibility of them all as higher beings. Eventually, that day came, centuries later than most of the others, but it came nonetheless. After an arbitrary grace period agreed upon by the other gods to justify their own actions and confirm that Gaia had truly failed her children by leaving them unprotected, they set their armies against humanity. The result was a crushing defeat, with no doubt as to who the victor truly was. Humanity raised up its mighty armies of the unified race and broke them over their knee, leaving naught but devastation and death in the wake of their battles. The gods watched in horrified wonder as their prized races with their powerful gifts fell like wheat before a farmer's sickle. Races gifted with the power to control wind were already of limited use in space battles, along with those who manipulated the Earth. But boarding parties of fire users were nightmares of the enemies. But they wouldn't get the chance against humanity, who took the initiative to instead board their ships. A suicide mission to all others who had attempted it before. Yet they came, covered head to toe in flame retardant gear, and carrying grenades of hydrogen gas, which they threw at the feet of their enemies. The sudden increased presence of extremely flammable gas causing their flames to burn out of control, and set their wielders ablaze, while the humans used the chaos to their advantage, and took out entire ships with minimal casualties on their side. Similar instances of humanity overcoming the might of their enemies with ingenuity and technology occurred across every battlefield, and the races who had been so proud and secure in their power learned that while they indeed had the power to survive on their native homes with ease, they were woefully inept when it came to true combat. Against a race that would learn had never stopped fighting against itself for a millennia and chose to coexist with the deadly inhabitants of its brutal planet, rather than wipe out all threats. They were mere pretenders before the true masters of war. Gaia turned away from the battles, the loving look of a proud mother changing to a smirk of ridicule as she addressed her fellow gods, echoing her own words from centuries before. My children have no mystical gifts to speak of. They cannot bend the elements to their whim with the wave of their hand. They cannot mold the earth beneath their feet to make their path smooth. They are not imbued with the durability of iron to defend themselves from their foes. They tamed fire with their own hands before they could speak, and later put it to work for them in their factories. They tasked the mighty wind with powering the cities by putting mighty turbines in its path. They forged man-made lightning to subdue their criminals and to bring the dead back to life. They broke the stubborn earth beneath their wheels of the powerful machines and forced raging rivers to change their course to suit their purpose. They constructed great walls of iron and steel to protect themselves, and developed weapons of war to pierce even the strongest of defenses. My children are foolhardy and stubborn, and have stood in their own way more times than I can count. But not once have they needed my help to rise after a fall. Every achievement was theirs, and theirs alone. Every step towards an uncertain future, taken with confidence and courage of their own making. Not once did I offer my hand so they might ascend to the stars, because I knew that they did not need it. Because they are my children. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.